Hello, Internet. Welcome to our very first official film review of 2016. It's also going to be the only film review of 2016. Wait, no, Doctor Strange counted. Darn it! Oh no! We're messing up. No, but let's keep going. It is our last review of 2016 of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I'm your host, Tyler Chansey, and with me, as always, is Michael Mosley.
I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Uh, So, yes, as part of Disney owning Lucasfilms, they've decided to start making these Star Wars spin-off movies. Movies that aren't necessarily part of the big events of Star Wars, like Episode 8, Episode 7, Episode whatever, but focusing more on certain side stories or smaller stories in the galaxy far, far away. And in the case of Rogue One, directed by Gareth Edwards, who you guys may remember from filming the live-action Godzilla movie from, I think, 2015, is the story about a small group of ragtag rebels that are part of the Rebel Alliance, and they discover that the Empire is working on a dangerous planet-killing superweapon known as the Death Star. And so our ragtag bunch of heroes, which includes Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, a sort of nasty pilot individual played by Diego Luna, and a couple of others, wind up having to work together in order to strike a decisive blow against the Empire and expose crucial information to the Rebel Alliance in order to get rid of the superweapon. Really, it's actually a bit more than we both expected. I mean, Michael, did you like the movie? Did you hate it?
Are you kidding me? It's everything I wanted the prequels to be when they first came out. This is what I wanted from episode 1 and 2. 3, I kind of gave up hope about that, but I like 3 on its own merits. But yeah, this is what I wanted episode 1 and 2 to be like. And now that I see that Disney really is putting a lot of effort into keeping this brand going, now I want to see more spin-offs and more side stories.
Oh my goodness. Like, despite what we may say negative or otherwise in the rest of this video, yeah, Rogue One is good. It is a very big breath of fresh air. Like, Michael, you said this is what you wanted from a Star Wars prequel. I had a slightly different level of quality in mind, because I mentioned before I like reading the Star Wars Expanded Universe books, which are now no longer canon, sad face, but that's the metric I had I want to measure Rogue One by. An expanded universe story that focused on a small event that made me forget that what happens later has to happen. Like, it's the greatest issue when it comes to prequels. How do you get that right? And how do you get me to empathize with these characters? How do you get me to empathize with their plight, their struggle? And how do you make a good movie out of that? And Gareth Edwards and everybody on board put together a pretty darn good movie, despite from what I've heard they had to do some reshoots before, which usually signifies a troubled production. But no, this is actually really good. Like, it definitely feels different enough from the other Star Wars movies that it definitely pops. So, unlike our Doctor Strange review, we're going to try to keep this review a bit more segmented. Don't worry, we're still going to be a little bit random. Well, kinda. You can't really be random if it's scripted, but whatever. But first thing on the docket, let's talk a bit about the actors and their characters. Like I mentioned before, the lead is played by Felicity Jones, Jyn Erso. She's the daughter of a scientist that helped develop the Death Star, and he wants to defect. And so she has some skin in the game as to, find her father and also help the Rebel Alliance. So, what did you think of Felicity Jones' performance?
I mean, she was okay for what she was given. She was given a character that honestly didn't have a whole lot to do. Oddly enough, like personality wise, she was a rebel, I guess, but she didn't really feel like a rebel. She didn't feel like she belonged amongst the ragtag team that we eventually got. She just felt like she was along for the ride, and Felicity did what she could with it.
I really can't tell, though, if that's a problem so much with Felicity's or so much as is Gareth Edwards' direction. Like, Edwards is good at sci-fi stuff, like good visuals, good practical effects, good set direction, good shot composition. But for some reason, when it comes to his lead characters in his movies, they're kind of not really all that good. Like, Aaron Taylor Johnson was supposed to be the main the main character in that Godzilla movie, and he was just kind of dull as dishwater.
And that's exactly what we get with Felicity's character. She's not that interesting. She just seems like another character that's just there. Like, honestly, to be honest, if she wasn't there and it was just a mission of the rebels, the movie probably wouldn't be all that different, with the exception of a couple of key scenes that had to do with her father. But other than that, yeah, she doesn't really make a huge difference.
She has great informed characteristics, like her character sheet, for lack of a better term. There's a lot to work with there. There's a lot of stuff that should be conceptually powerful, and there are some scenes where she does sell it, and it does help salvage. I wouldn't say salvage; that seems too harsh a word. It makes her pop a lot more, makes her a lot more present in the picture. But there are like a few scenes where they linger a little too much on her, and she's trying to do that determined stoicism look, but she just looks kind of distant. And it is a small issue. But the good news is that we also got some other characters as well that actually do a pretty good job as well. Like I mentioned, Diego Luna as Captain Cassian.
Hold on, pretty good. They do a way better. Well, it's mostly because their characters are way more interesting. But yeah, those guys do way better than Felicity. But again, not her fault. The character she was given was pretty bland.
Oh, well, bland by I guess Star Wars movie standards. I mean, I've seen less interesting characters shuffle around, but yeah, Diego Luna actually was a really good job as Cassian, because he's a great example of a smuggler in the galaxy that's not Han Solo. Like, this is probably my favorite thing about Rogue One. Like, these characters maybe are protagonists, but they are not quote unquote capital G good guys. Like,
you say that, but when I saw him, all I could think of was Poe, and I was like, this guy's no Oscar Isaac. He's not, his character isn't as cool, it's not as charming, and he just came off as kind of like jerkish, which is okay, which is where I know you got the Han Solo thing from, but even then, that's doing him disservice because he's no Han Solo either.
That's what I'm trying to get at, though. Like, it's a bad comparison. If people think a smuggler in this universe is like Han Solo, then quote unquote, bear with me on here, smugglers in Star Wars would kind of come off as a bunch of pansies. Captain Cassian, oh my gosh, he gets stuff done. He's nasty in the beginning of this movie. He doesn't take no crap from anybody. And it's actually really good to see this much more rough and tumble type guy. I mean, like I said, the comparison to Harrison Ford isn't fair, but Diego Luna is a good actor. Like, I mean, this is something weird. Like, I just remembered he actually played Robbie Reyes, aka the new Ghost Rider in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he was the best thing in that part of the TV series, because he could just sell this sort of tortured soul that has a lot more going on. And Captain Cassie doesn't have the exact same thing going on for him, but once again, Luna has plenty of range, and it does show. So yeah, he's probably the closest thing to the male lead hero in this movie, but as you said, the supporting heroes do kind of steal the show in all the best ways. Like, I think you and I agreed, heck, you quoted him, I think, at the beginning, which was Donnie Yen, who plays this blind, sort of force-sensitive monk that they discover that's trying to protect some remnants of the Jedi Temple, and usually whenever I see these types of characters, these people that are men of faith in wartime, sometimes they can get a little preachy, but Donnie Yen is freaking Donnie Yen doing this shtick, and he's also a freaking kung fu master. And it's fun to see him just tap around with his staff at some point, and then just twirl it around in figure eight and just knock stormtroopers' heads off.
He was definitely one of the more fun characters. Like, watching him take on stormtroopers one by one or two by two, sensing where they're stepping and when they're going to pull the trigger was really cool. Like, it's something that I've wanted to see in Star Wars. People who are able to fight back without using Jedi powers.
He was a Force sensitive, but he wasn't suddenly a Jedi or a Sith or whatever.
Right, and it makes sense. It didn't feel out of place because everybody knows everybody has the power of the Force. Well, not really the power of the Force in the way of the Jedi, but the Force is all around us. And if you're
And so,
sensitive enough to it, you can in some ways use the Force.
yes,
And the
just
way
not on the same level
right,
as
and
some.
and the way he used it was just was I guess you could say super hearing, but it was just more of concentration. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like since he was already a monk, and he was a man of faith in the Force, yeah, of course he was gonna believe like it was the Force that guided him. And it worked. Like it
It
felt
was
grounded enough.
it was a much needed sort of return to the more mystical elements of the Force rather than this stupid thing with metachlorian. Moving on, there was also another character that kind of hung out with Donnie Yen. He was much more of this kind of ruthless mercenary type. Like he basically ran around with like a laser Gatling gun. He had battle armor. Like if he was wearing a helmet, I would have sworn he was a Mandalorian, and he kind of hung out with Donnie Yen's character, and they kind of had this sort of man of faith versus the cynic kind of vibe going on. They had this pretty fun sort of chemistry together as friends.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they were both part of the ministry.
Yeah,
He at one time he was a man of faith until he
he
lost
lost
it.
it. Yep.
But you could tell that he still had some sense in it because he stuck around and he watched after his friend after they were amongst the last of their brethren.
Yep, that's right. And well, yeah, Donnie Yen was my kind of favorite. Michael, what was yours?
Man, actually, that's kind of hard.
You just told me a while ago, man. Come on, keep
Yeah,
up.
yeah, but it doesn't feel right because I can't say his whole name. K.
K250.
No, it's like KS2 or KS5, something like that.
No, it's K250. A reprogrammed
You,
Imperial tactical
you know
droid.
that is one thing I would say about this film. They don't really use names a whole lot. Like
Yeah.
every now and again they'll throw around a name, but like throughout the movie I was like, man, what's this character's name again? Like I like the character, I like the personality, but I couldn't remember their names because
Yeah.
anybody barely used names around this movie.
I actually had to try to remember some of these names. I like Donnie Yen's character, but for the life of me, I can't remember his name or his buddy's name. I had to stretch to remember Diego Luna's character being called Captain Cassian. Felicity Jones's character Jenner. So it's key to the story. You hear it multiple times. That's one of the easier to remember names. But then you get like K250, and they just shorten it to K2. And it's like, how do you do that? But yeah, you seem to have really liked K2, voiced by Captain Wash himself, Alan Tudyk.
And I was right, it was S. It's K2S0.
Oh dear! Oh no! I've been found out.
Yeah, like I said, like nobody, like anybody barely use names around here, so you're probably gonna walk away not remembering a whole lot of names. And I think the guy's name was Baze, something like that.
Yes, it was definitely a B word ending in S, but yeah, it's really weird. But you seem to really liked a K2 just because he was just this straight talk, this very tactless straight talker type guy. Like he seemed like a much more sassy C3PO.
If C3PO had the ability to actually fight back, I'm pretty sure that's what he would be like. Yeah, yeah. K2. He reminded me of the your robot companion in Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
HK.
Yeah, HK. Except that he wasn't murderous against you and human
Yeah.
beings in general, but he's a reprogrammed Imperial robot, and I actually like to see a story about that one myself.
Oh my gosh, it was good.
Yeah, because the adventure that he and Captain Cassian,
Yep.
Cassian, the adventures they had, I'm sure would be fun to watch. So I kind of want a spinoff of that one.
You want a spin-off of the spin-off? Give us all the money.
Hey man,
Give them all the money. People.
If you're gonna keep giving us interesting characters that we like, then yeah, I'm gonna want a movie about that. But he was a fun character to watch. Whenever he was on screen, it was fun. He wasn't just cracking jokes in like a Jar Jar kind of way.
Oh no. Oh no, the humor was not forced in this movie, and thank goodness for
Oh
that.
no, like he didn't need a straight man. Like he had that. He had that. He had the ability to joke around without actually trying to joke around. He was being serious about the situations, but it was the way he delivered it
He
that
was
was humorous.
he was so flippant and yet matter of fact about it, it's disarming at first. Like it's the Drax effect. Like you kind of get used to it after a while.
You know, I liked it like as soon as it started. Like even before he made a joke about why he had to go on missions and the blaster joke he has, like, why don't I get a blaster? It was great because he's being serious about it, but his delivery and his timing was just amazing, and is what made it such an interesting chemistry between him and Jen.
It was interesting chemistry, but it also helps sell even more this movie apart from the rest of them. Because can you seriously imagine somebody with a straight face handing C-3PO a blaster and saying, "Here, cover my back"?
I mean,
not gonna happen.
They do with R2, so.
Well, R2 is like a Swiss Army droid. He just has whatever. Like, giving C-3PO saying, "Here, cover my back," he'd be like, "What are you talking about? I'm not programmed for this." K2's like, "Yep, okay."
I mean, hey, C-3PO is a service robot. But there's one character I have a complaint about. It was for, oh wait, what was his name? Saul
Gerrera.
Gerrera, yeah. I like Forrest Whitaker. I think he's an amazing actor, and I was so happy when I saw him in this movie because I thought he was going to give out all kinds of inspirational speeches or helping lead this rebellion.
I was like expecting like an Idris Elba Pacific Rim level of raw speech, but
a little bit of mentorship or whatever. You kind of get you're not even kind of. I'm sorry, people, but no. Forrest Whitaker was a waste. He gets like one good like line, but they use it in the trailer. Save the rebellion, save the dream. Like they had that in the trailer, and that's like his like one big sort of show-offy line he kind of gets. And he delivered it. Man, did he deliver it. The few moments that Forrest Whitaker was on screen, he sold that character. And I really wish he was in it more. But yeah,
that's some serious acting right there.
Yeah, that seems to be the problem with the newer Star Wars right now. They bring in some great actors.
They got some great creativity, but
they put them in roles that are in and out, like they did with oh geez, who was that? What was her name? It was for The Force Awakens.
Captain Phasma.
Captain Phasma. No, yeah, but I'm talking about the actress. I can't remember her name. But
I can't remember her name either, but I know she also plays Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like they bring in these great actors
but
and actresses,
barely enough screen time,
but give them nothing to do, and you're like, oh yeah, they're in this movie. Oh wait, never mind.
It especially stings, especially with Forrest Whitaker, Saul Gerrera, because there's this entire opening act to this movie. This is basically not spoiler territory. It's the opening scene where basically it has Jin as a kid around the time the Empire takes her father away, and so she hides, and they have this scene where it shows that Saul Gerrera basically raised her, picked her up and kind of took her under his wing, and then that whole thread doesn't go anywhere. It just
I was really hoping that was like going to be the second act that gets her through with the rebellion, but they throw that out the window so fast, and they resolve it through exposition, and I was like, you could have had Forrest Whitaker help carry this movie. But instead, exposition. It's like that could have been your second. That could have easily been your second act to get Jen in with the rebellion in the first place.
That could have been a much more human scene and could have really made things a bit more, but it just didn't go for it. But overall, the acting is actually really good. Overall, I really can't think of a legitimately awful performance in this whole movie. Like seriously, even the bad guy.
Yeah, nobody has to worry about Anakin talking about.
I don't like sand.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about nonsense like that. They've got directors who actually know how to direct people. So.
Oh yes, like I said, like we like these characters. What time we spend with some of them, to be sure, and even the bad guy, Captain Krennic, definitely just had this he towed the line between ham and serious. Like he did that very distinctly British ham kind of acting where he composes himself, but then he's like, "We have power, we can do this, we must destroy this rebel scum." And
okay, granted, he did this at the right time. It wasn't. I'm sorry to bring this up, but it wasn't Eddie Redfield or Redman. Redfield. Oh my goodness, now I'm getting all kinds of stuff mixed up. But
whoops.
This wasn't Jupiter's ascending level. It was like
levels of scenery inhaling.
Yeah, it's like, I got the Death Star, and I can take away your planet. No, it was nothing like that, thankfully. That
was pretty good.
Like when like that'd have been awful. Like when he actually does this, when he actually raises his voice, it's for good reasons. And I want to talk about it, but there's a couple scenes that actually be spoilery, so I can't. But like
We'll
when
get to
he
we'll get to in the spoiler discussion very quickly, but
but when he gets mad at people, it's for good reasons, and when we yell at them, it's because they deserve to be yelled at.
yes, but yeah. So the acting is good, but I will say the tone was a surprise. Like the first thing that hits you whenever you go see Rogue One is there's no text crawl.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, that was known. Like it was known that they weren't going to do it. Like when that first popped up, I was like, I know how to do a text scroll. Like I came up with what could have been a text scroll, and I was like, you could have done that. But at the same time, I understand why they didn't do it, so
But
I was okay
yeah,
with it.
yeah, that's what's really strange. No, I'm just talking about that opening because it then set a precedent for how this movie was not going to be just another Star Wars movie, and it was the best thing they could have done. Because as you said, it was just a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then boom, right to it, and it was a much welcome sort of take on it. We could just go right to the action, go right to the beats, go right to what we need to know, and also the editing was a bit different. Like I was expecting a lot of wipes because that's one thing that kind of bothers me now whenever I look back at some of the older Star Wars movies. Actually, any of the older Star Wars movies,
I really enjoyed
Lucas
them
liked
because
wipes. He
yeah,
liked doing wipe cuts.
I mean, I do too. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy the wipes because sometimes depending how you use them, they can be very effective. Like when he does the zoom in circulars wipe, that actually helps set things up a little bit. It's just a fast way of getting from one scene to another. But with this movie, they didn't really need the wipes
Oh
because
no.
the way everything was moving along so swiftly, and not in a bad way, and the way everything was move along so swiftly, they didn't really need that because they had establishing shots. They knew what planet they were going to and what
hmm
system they were going to use. So
They actually
it
they
worked a
actually had
lot better.
titles. They actually had titles to the planets and the locations this time
Yeah,
around. That was a
yeah. It wasn't
surprise.
just people talking about that planet. You actually get a feel that these are planets that you know of. It's like we have to go to this planet, and that planet. It's like I don't know what that planet looks like. I don't know where it is. And then when they finally show a certain planet they've been talking about for like 20 minutes, you know what it is because they talked about it. This the text comes up. You're like, okay, I know exactly where I am. I know what's at stake.
Which is actually, I say, a point of the movie savor. Like the original Star Wars is trying to go for this mythic, legendary, arch storytelling, which is not bad, by the way. I'm not knocking Star Wars. That's their flavor, and I love it. But it's what really helps set Rogue One apart because Rogue One, really, if you search out the sci-fi stuff, is basically it's basically a military operation movie, for lack of a better word, with a bunch of underdogs. And they do not shy away from that. They have some pretty nasty fight scenes, some pretty nasty effect, like really, really drawn out, rough and tumble battles that are just scary. Like
And I'm
there's
so and I'm so glad they actually pulled the camera out so you can
and
see the
showed
full
us.
effect. Yes, they actually pulled the camera out a bit so you can see the full effect. When somebody goes
Yes.
flying, you see it not front and center, but you can see it in the background as that person gets blasted while everybody's running. So you actually see at stake. Like, oh, there's so much I want to talk about. We already seen that the walkers come through. That scene with the walkers, we're not going to spoil it right now.
Oh,
But the way the camera handled those scenes
that was a
was
legitimate. Oh
amazing.
shit! That
Yeah,
was a legitimate. Oh shit!
yeah. Like
Moment.
I haven't been afraid of walkers since like the Battle of Hoth. Like when they showed the Battle of Hoth, walkers looked scary. After that, yeah, the walkers were
Just
just
tie him up and
yeah,
they'll fall
they were
over.
just another thing. But in this one, yeah, they reminded you that these walkers are nothing to joke around with. When they
The
brought out
Empire is capable in this movie. The
oh
Empire
yeah,
is
when they
scarily capable.
when they first brought out the AT-AT, you're like, oh, we're getting messed up out here. We're
All
getting
right, call the
beaten.
death robots.
Yeah, yeah. When they're getting surrounded, they're like, bring it back up. They bring in the AT-AT, start wiping the floor. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. The Empire is actually a threat. I remember
Yeah,
now because they have all these tools at their disposal.
and the good guys don't have a freaking space wizard with them.
Yeah, but if there's anything that I actually enjoy, you were talking about the editing
The
and
editing
and
is
how everything looked fine. One of the things I actually enjoyed about the editing, establishing shots. That was one thing George Lucas was kind of horrible at.
Yeah.
He would show you where the thing is, but you don't know what you were looking at. With this one, you had a clear idea of where you were. Establishing shots were just that, establishing shots. You actually, it wasn't just a quick shot of a building you were inside. No, the camera pulls back to where you can see the surroundings, where you can see the buildings.
Get a sense of scale.
Yeah, you get a sense of scale. The people, it looks busy. You know, even when places are crowded, the camera is far enough to where you can get a sense of how large or how small certain areas really are.
Oh my gosh, when they do go to those scenes where you're in a crowded sort of bazaar area, yeah, I mean bazaar as in storefront bazaar, it reminded me of why Star Wars became known as that much more sort of grimy, used future aesthetic, I guess, that Lucas penned. They stuck to that. They didn't try to go for this clean, sterile look that the prequel movies are more well known for. They remembered to go back to the roots and go for that look. And honestly, though, when it comes also to pacing, I'd say the first 20 minutes is a bit odd because they do that flashback with Jin, and then it takes a while for things to get going. But my God, when it gets going, dear me, it becomes downright inspiring.
It moves at a quick pace once we finally get past the whole
and
Jen and her father and her past thing. Which
once again, I want to chalk that. I do want to chalk that to Gareth Edwards. Like, I had similar problems with. Well, sorry, once again going back to Godzilla. He's only done like 3 movies. I'm sorry. Go back to Godzilla. It takes a while to get going, but once it gets going, oh my gosh, it becomes great.
When I found out he was doing this movie, I was afraid he was going to go for that slow tone all the way until the end.
Yeah.
Thankfully, whoever wrote the script didn't leave him room to do that.
Oh no! Like Gary Whitta actually has a credit with the screenplay of Rogue One, and I personally also remember him because he also helped write Episode 4 of Telltale's The Walking Dead, which was actually one of the better highlights of that season. But that's getting into different territory. I think the only real problem I do have with the movie, other than some editing choices I mentioned before in the acting, actually is the music. For some reason, Michael Giacchino's musical score didn't really seem to fit the movie. Like,
man, it was forgettable. To be all honesty, it felt forgettable.
It felt forgettable because I felt like it was trying to be a Star Wars score. Like, I'm dealing with...
Okay, to be fair to him, he wasn't trying to follow the past Star Wars. He was trying to make his own.
No, I understand that, but at the same time, they brought him on early. They brought him on late into the production. They had a different composer, and they brought him in, saying, "Quick, put something together." So, I'm not knocking what he did. It's just that whenever I think of a Star Wars score, I immediately think of these mythic, larger-than-life heroes clashing good versus evil. I'm looking at Rogue One. I'm expecting a much more sort of grounded, more pulsing score to kind of give more sort of human visceralness to it, if that makes any sense. And whenever they do have these sort of horn blares, I'm like, it feel a bit odd.
Well, I can't talk about the score too much because, like I said, it's forgettable, and it was honestly, if anything, it was probably the weakest part of the movie, which isn't bad.
It's strange. It's strange because I remember a lot of people kind of knocking John Williams' score for The Force Awakens, and that was actually pretty good. I still hum some bars here and there, but Michael Giacchino's score here, good work with what he was given, but as you said, forgettable, and I don't think it really fit the movie all that well.
Yeah, again, I can't talk about the score because I honestly can't remember any of it.
Yeah, all I remember is like a couple like stings, like da-da-da-da-da-da, and then nothing else.
All right, so
we're
getting ready to wrap this up. One thing you wanted to talk about was, actually we can't talk about that until we do the spoiler. So I guess we just do our final score for right now.
Yes. Let's just clarify ourselves right here and right now. We're going to be doing a score of out of 5 now. I know we did out of 10 before with Doctor Strange, but we're going to keep it to 5 because 5 is clean and 5 is fun. Plus, you can count them on your fingers on one hand. It's simple like that. So, Michael, how would you score Rogue One, A Star Wars Story?
Easily a 4. Like, just downright easily a 4. While the beginning is a little slow, which I don't mind that. I don't like that it was used to set something up that they would eventually drop. Not even at the beginning of the second act. And also, score is forgettable. I like the characters, all of them, including Jen. I know I said Felicity wasn't given much to do, but her character was still likable, and you still want to root for her. And I'm glad that they made the rebels kind of bad guys in this. They do
Oh yeah.
they do things in here that you make you question the rebellion, and I like the point that they did that. And
The Empire is pure evil, but the evils the rebels are forced to do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're forced to do. I mean, it's war. You're gonna have to do things that you normally probably wouldn't do or shouldn't do. And
Yeah.
they talk about it a little bit. I was like, okay, this is nice. And they shown a little bit of that, especially when it came down to Captain Cassian. A couple things that he did in the movie. I was like,
Oh my
dude.
goodness, yeah. There were some gasps in the audience. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff
like
he did.
a couple times I was like, wait, is he not part of the rebellion? But it was great. But that and the point that third act, that final act, leading all the way from the third act all the way to the very end to the credits, was just everything you want in a Star Wars movie. It set everything up, and
It was
tied
beautiful.
It tied it all off. It kept its promise about being a one and done movie, not worrying about a sequel, because it goes right into A New Hope, and they delivered. Simply put, they delivered. They kept their promise. Worth it. I can't wait for it to come on Blu-ray. In fact, it might be the first movie I get on 4K without even having a 4K TV yet. So
Wow.
definitely a 4 for me.
I actually have to say roughly the same thing. I'm kind of erring a bit on 3.5, but I am willing to give it four because for some reason a lot of major movies seem to have rushed feeling third acts, and they don't seem to pay off all that much. But at the same time, the third act works so freaking well. It even forgives some of the stuff we had some complaints with. Like I mentioned, I feel as if some of the characters could have used maybe an extra scene or two for a bit extra characterization. But but they seem to have an arc, even if it's not implied, and that still gets paid off in the third act, and it feels great. Like the special effects are mostly pretty great. I have some problems with the music. As you said, there were some pacing issues. It's all the same, but dear me. If you take anything from this review, people, just know Rogue One is great, mostly because, as you said, it doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie. It feels like a much more gritty, grounded story about, for lack of a better word, the mooks, the lower grade people of the Rebel Alliance and their struggles, and they make that sizzle, and they make legitimate horrors of war actually somewhat compelling, but at the same time questionable. Like, I remember some critic reviews coming out saying, like, oh my gosh, Star Wars Rogue One is actually a Star Wars movie that's about war. How novel! What are you talking about? But I see where they come from, and it is echoed. So, yeah, 4 out of 5 TIE Fighters out of 5 for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And that will wrap up our review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Go on, check it out. Let us know what you think. You can follow us on Twitter at where, Michael?
For me, you can find me on Twitter at Zafmod, ZAFMOD. And if some strange reason you can't find me on there, you can use my Twitter handle at M_MOSLEY_JR.
Alright, you can follow me on Twitter at Darth Rahu. Darth as in Vader, ha ha ha. Capital R, lowercase AHU, all one word. And I really should be blogging at cybertavern.blogspot.com. I've been slacking off a bit. But other than that, feel free to get in contact with us. Tell us we're wrong, tell us we're stupid, tell us we are amazing, and you would like to do stuff for us that we will keep quiet in private. Until the next time, folks, have a happy new year and happy holidays to all of you.
May the Force be with you all.
Yeah.